I hope that everyone's having a very comfy time because today there is gonna be a lot of reading, primarily done by me. So, me and my friends, we're gonna be playing V20 Edition Sabat game, and we are using supplements from a Vampire the Masquerade revised edition, I believe, called Chaining the Beast, in order to adapt paths to our characters. So I got the privilege of reading this book, which I was previously not as familiar with. Honestly, it is the level of edgy that I believe that the editorial me is gonna put very dramatic music starting from about over here for the rest of the video, just in the background, just so that you have something else besides my voice to listen to. I can't exactly decide whether it was someone's kink that they wrote into the books, or whether they wanted to shock people, or whether they actually didn't want to go far enough in order to shock people, considering the kind of topics that we're gonna be discussing today. So, there are already, not entirely nice topics. They're just gonna come up based on this book alone, such as, let's call it non-consensual woohoo for anyone familiar with Sims. And Lilith, as a mythological being, is also the being of death and pregnancy and baby death, and honestly driving people mad with lust so that they're addicted to doing the deed with the kind of things that won't start a family, like their hand, for example. So if any of those topics are not something that you want to be listening to, I suggest you would switch off right now. But you kind of clicked into Vampire the Masquerade comparing Lilith's video, so I don't exactly know what you expected. Anyway, I think it would be best if I started with reading the Chaining the Beast version of Lilith that they have for Path of Lilith written out, and then we can read excerpts from Jewish mythology for Lilith, because that is where they're basing their character upon, not like Sumerian mythology, so it kind of goes better as like a point-to-point comparison. They have made some weird decisions. Let's just put it that way. Path of Lilith, nickname Bahari, sometimes Lilin, both singular and plural, and honestly that is kind of historically accurate. Lilith was not as much of a singular entity as it was Lilin the wind demons, effectively. It was, or Lilitu, was a group, like a group of demons. It wasn't necessarily one. Currently, some people subscribe to the idea of like a singular Lilith. Some people perceive it as a plural Lilith, in my opinion. It doesn't entirely matter, but it's nice that they included Lilin and not just Lilith. The first woman was not Eve. Eve was a submissive, pure-behaved creation designed to satisfy Adam's arrogance and to indulge his foolishness. The first woman was Lilith. She demanded knowledge and equality and was cast from the Garden of Eden for that sin. It was in her long years of wandering that she found Samael, the Lightbringer angel. He too was fallen. Lilith gave him her flesh and her love, and he gave her knowledge. At least that's how some tell it. Others say he non-consensually woohooed her, and she stole magic from him in revenge. The details do not matter, only the result. Lilith was pregnant, and she had learned of the power of angels. God sent the angels Senvoy, Sansanoi, and Sameneloth. I'm pretty sure that these are actually mythologically accurate names, but I can't pronounce them, so Salmonella it is. to subdue Lilith and drag her back to servitude in the garden. Her first children claimed that the three angels non-consensually woohooed her and abused her and put a curse upon her. If anyone carved the names of these angels to an amulet and held it to her or her children and shouted, "Out, Lilith," she and her children would be powerless and would have to flee. Lilith, betrayed again, bleeding and wounded, gave birth to the angels' children. In later years, she met Cain, the son of Adam. Adam? Why? Adam? What? Me? I'm sorry, Adam. Wandering the land of Nod, she took him in, clothed him, and taught him the secrets she had gathered from Samael, from the angels, from the demons that she had taken as her lovers, and from the wild ones who had sheltered her when she gave birth. Perhaps she loved Cain. He too bore a curse, an exile from God akin to her own. Cain too betrayed her. In time, Lilith became the mother of many strange and demonic creatures. But those that were most like her, those that honored her, were the Lilith, those named the succubi and the incubi. They in turn had children, and those spread throughout the world, born of pain and fire, a non-consensual woohoo and betrayal, with the secret knowledge stolen by their mother rushing through their veins. In time, they came to rule expanses of the earth. They preyed on the sons of Seth. As the human race struggled in the time after the fall of man, they warred with Cain's children. Eventually, elder succubi and incubi offered their allegiance to hell, or traveled away from Earth. Lilith went into hiding, disappeared, or died. Others say she walked the earth, stalking the tribes of man as they spread. The Dark Mother, they called her, giving her names such as Kali, Morgan, Hel, and Tiamat. But where she went, her children followed. I don't actually consider squishing all four of those together if you are going by real life mythology. It gets kind of weird when people start squishing every female goddess into one being, or even female quote-unquote dark goddess into one being, or female spirit into one being. That ain't how mythology works. Do not do that. It comes off really, really wrong. Their blood mingled with all the races of man, so that in each tribe they laid the potential for the dark, beautiful, demonic, and immortal Lilith to be born. Before the flood, the Lilith ruled huge kingdoms in the defiance of heaven and the sons of Cain. Then 3 of them, grandchildren of Lilith herself, entered Enoch to offer themselves to the dark gods who ruled there. In the sons of Cain's lust for the children's blood, beauty and knowledge, the vampires gave the Lilith the dark gift. And in time, the children of Lilith bade their siblings rise up and slay the sons of Cain. The Baharis say they were the first to walk the path of Lilith, and the first vampires to know Lilith's truths. I'm gonna continue reading things like that in this particular demeanor for I think about half of the next section, because I think we should read a bit further in. This is more about how to exactly play the archetype, but I kind of want to talk about it later, so we may as well get the reading out of the way right now. And I feel like when you're presenting with the edge game of the edginess, a particularly edgy way of reading it, this is the only correct way. Basic beliefs. The Bahari, or the Lilith as they sometimes refer to themselves, are a large, diverse group of worshippers of the Dark Mother. Many Cainites worship Lilith, but only a few of those use such worship as the focus for path of enlightenment. Lilith worshippers do not follow any one canonical theology. Rather, they each follow one of a number of apocryphal and contradictory beliefs, oral traditions, and fragments of ancient texts. All agree, however, that Lilith is the Dark Mother, Cain's lover and the explorer of hidden things. To find her truths, one must suffer her thorns. A common concept discussed by the Bahari is the notion of the torture garden, or Lilith's garden, a perfumed oasis of pain, suffering, dark sensuality, and enlightenment. The garden is both a mythological place spoken of in several stories about her and a metaphorical thing. To be a true Lilin, one must dwell in the lair amongst the sharp, barbed flowers and the sweet moans of the seekers as they enjoy the Dark Mother's torments. For vampire, one of Lilith's thorns is the hunger of the beast. To progress on this path, one must move deep into the garden, wherever darker pleasures and sharper agonies await. At the center of the place lies the tree of enlightenment, which by legend Lilith grew from the stolen seed of God's tree, and which in metaphorical terms is the final initiation that balances beast and intellect, pleasure and pain, intellect and sensuality. By opening oneself to the true experience, suffering and ecstasy, enlightenment and madness, one can comprehend the truth of reality. The following has no place for insincere compassion or false conscience. The mother suffered for her children's joys and died for their sins. Those who choose to follow her ways must suffer and endure as she did. And now let me just scroll a bit up. Those who do not follow her ways are fools. Those who try to follow and fail her tests are chaff to be cast aside. Compassion is indulging others' weakness. Conscience is giving free rein to one's own hypocrisy. Only the strong can follow Lilith's ways. Only those brave enough to defy God and petty civilized morality can never strive to enter her garden. Vampires who follow Lilith's teachings must have a need for beyond lust, for her secrets and experiences. A postulant must prove the need. She must demand the agonies, be it in the torments of whip and fire, the rages and depredations of the beast, before the Bahari accept her. Only then, when the initiate has taken the first tenuous steps into the exquisite agonies of Dark Mother's love, do the Hierophants, the vampire priests, come to her and challenge her. The Hierophants, the torturer priests of Lilith, become the students' lovers, and the ministrations are merciless. From the beginning, Immaculate experienced pains beyond comprehension. If the student's need is sufficient, the pain draws her deeper into that metaphorical garden, and the Hierophants show her the mother's thorns. And we're gonna end reading this right here because the rest of the text kind of goes blah blah blah, pain and suffering, blah blah blah, more pain and suffering, great enlightenment, pain and suffering. Effectively, it's written as somebody's BDSM fantasy. Nothing wrong with that. But that is the only way that I will ever consider reading a text like that. Before we talk about it, let's just kind of switch to reading Hebrew mythology about Lilith. I have a nice website open. Let's just quickly switch to that. Look at us go! We're on www.gnosis.org/lilith.htm. And these are excerpts from the Hebrew Myths by Robert Graves and Raphael Patai, New York, Doubleday, 1964. If I'm pronouncing anything wrong, forgive me. This can all be found in libraryoflilith.com, which is where I got my access to the shorthand of the Hebrew Myths. I am familiar with the full work of Alphabet of Ben Sira, which is kind of satirical work to begin with. I needed something shorter for this video, and this fits greatly. So thank you so much, gnosis.org/lilith.htm. You are great. The links to the websites will be in the descriptions down below if you want to check them out yourself. Chapter 10, Adam's helpmeets. Having decided to give Adam a helpmeet, lest he should be alone of his kind, God put him into deep sleep, removed one of his ribs, formed it into a woman, and closed up the wound. Adam awoke and said, "This being shall be named woman, because she has been taken out of man. A man and woman shall be one flesh." The title he gave her was Eve, the mother of all living. Some say that God created man and woman in his own image on the sixth day, giving them charge over the world, but the Eve did not exist yet. Now God had set Adam to name every beast, bird, and living thing. When they passed before him in pairs, male and female, Adam, being already like a 20-year-old man, felt jealous of their loves, and though he tried coupling with each female in turn, that's never gonna not be funny, found no satisfaction in the act of bestiality. He therefore cried, "Every creature but I has a proper mate," and prayed God would remedy this injustice. God then formed Lilith, the first woman, just as he had formed Adam, except that he used filth and sediment instead of pure dust. From Adam's union with his demoness and with another like her named Nama, Tubal-Cain's sister, sprang Asmodeus and innumerable demons that still plague mankind. Many generations later, Lilith and Nama came to Solomon's judgment seat, disguised as harlots of Jerusalem. Adam and Lilith never found peace together, for when he wished to lie with her, she took offense at the recumbent posture he demanded. "Why must I lie beneath you?" she asked. "I also was made from dusk and am dust." Dusk? Oh, wow, magic particles were made from dusk and dawn. "I was also made from dust, and am therefore your equal." Because Adam tried to compel her obedience by force, Lilith in a rage uttered the magic name of God, rose into the air, and left him. Adam complained to God, "I have been deserted by my helpmeet." God at once sent the angels Sensenoi and Samageloff. See, the ones inside the Vampire the Masquerade were nearly accurate, except that Samangeloff in here sounds a lot less like Salmonella than whatever was the Vampire the Masquerade's version. They found her beside the Red Sea, a region abounding in lascivious demons, to whom she bore Lilith at the rate of more than 100 a day. "Return to Adam without delay," the angels said, "or we will drown you." Lilith asked, "How can I return to Adam and live like an honest housewife after my stay beside the Red Sea? It will be death to refuse," they answered. "How can I die?" Lilith asked again, "when God has ordered me to take charge of all newborn children, boys up to the 8th day of life, that of circumcision, girls up to the 20th day. Nonetheless, if ever I see your 3 names or likenesses displayed in an amulet above a newborn child, I promise to spare it." To this they agreed, but God punished Lilith by making 100 of her demon children perish daily, and if she could not destroy a human infant because of the angelic amulet, she would spitefully turn against her own. Some say that Lilith ruled as queen in Smargad and again in Sheba, and was the demoness who destroyed Job's sons. Yet she escaped the curse of death which overtook Adam, since they had parted long before the fall. Lilith and Nama not only strangle infants but also seduce dreaming men, any one of whom sleeping alone may become their victim. The rest is a really weird write-up on God's explorations on how to give Adam a proper housewife and the kind of women that Adam is into and not into. Surprise, surprise, Adam's not into women constructed right in front of his face. That is what the myths are telling us. Let's switch off from Jewish mythology and let's just talk about it. Welcome to OMG WTF Barbecue, which was at one point in the Sims 2 mod that got ported to the Sims 4 mod. I thought that this was a fitting background for this video and the kind of things we're gonna be talking about. So first of all, the Vampire the Masquerade version of Lilith, I don't particularly like it because the for some reason really focused on the non-consensual woohoo part and turned her into a bit of a victim. Like, she is a person that doesn't stand her ground, but suffers at the hands of multiple different men, and then goes on blind revenge against... Well, if you read further, it says that when she rises, she's gonna take revenge on Cain and on Lucifer and all of the other named figures, so she has anger issues against people that have abused her. It's not a very nice way of framing a figure that, in a way, can actually be seen from an empowering lens, and you see quite a lot of that in modern Lilith worship, really, where you have reduced her to someone that has suffered a lot along the way on the path to enlightenment, and hence why the parts of the journey that get carried over to playing the archetype is pain and seeking of pain and getting beaten and feeling pleasure through pain and intermixing the two. Like, this is a very bizarre BDSM party more than it is a story about Lilith. Now, in some versions of the Jewish myth, she is coupled. In some versions, she's not. In a lot of stories that predate Jewish myths, she's not really a demon that is coupled. She is effectively a demon that is responsible for, I want to say crowd control, but that's the wrong word, population control. Population control through stopping, a man and a woman getting together and making a baby to begin with, through killing of pregnant women, and through death through infancy. There are other spirits that are responsible through, deaths through earthquakes and other natural disasters like Pazuzu, and in some mythologies Lilith and Pazuzu are opposite forces that attack one another, so they're amulets that deflect from one by calling onto the other, and so on and so forth. Because primary way of stopping man and woman getting together is a rather sexual way of getting a man obsessed with effectively life force draining spirits like the succubi, which just makes the man really lustful and a lot likely to touch himself and not stop touching himself. So effectively an addiction to porn. That word that YouTube's definitely gonna hate. It enters this sexual aspect, the fact that we make choices for ourselves in the 21st century and abortion is a thing. She has this choice aspect to her where women that don't really want to create a family and want to have choice in their own reproduction might go with, Lilith in order to pray for a successful abortion and things like that. But in general, her area of expertise is very fittingly displayed in here. I can even move this a little bit so that we just have more of a picture, right? A bit more of this picture. There we go. Lilith's area of expertise can just be kind of summed up with baby killing. I know that it doesn't sound very nice, hence why the pictures. I'm wondering if they went the weird BDSM route because OMG WTF BBQ, while a very infamous mod of The Sims 2, would have been a bit too confrontational even for Vampire the Masquerade in 2003. If you made a path that includes stopping man and woman from procreating by any means necessary, and included outright baby killing. Is there like a line that they just wouldn't cross? Is that why this wasn't crossed? But the whole restructuring that story, which is quite an, empowering story of I'm not gonna lie beneath you and taking your own destiny into your own hands and just going, oh, and she was cursed, and then she had a lot of lovers that all unconsensually wooed her, and now she has like anger problems. I feel like that really takes away from mythological Lilith completely, and what is she about in reality in a rather not a nice way. So I understand that WTF OMG barbecue might have crossed your boundaries a little, but honestly, I think the original OG myth of Lilith, even through a Jewish lens, is nicer to Lilith than what Vampire the Masquerade people wrote. Yeah, it's what they wrote is a fairly victimized person. And I don't actually understand why they felt the need to use like Lilith in particular for that, and not just like take a different deity to connect knowledge and pain together. Like those are the things that are not very connected to Lilith. If you want to push it even, Lilith as a mythological figure might fit werewolves a bit better than vampires, simply because werewolves have that preserving ecology through murder thing happening in them, and that would have completely aligned with the demon of population control through effectively baby killing. Yeah, it's weird choices have been made. I can't really say I'm not really offended, by the way. It's I'm used to reading edgy books. It's when people take a franchise that has been edgy and then try to really soften it along the corners that it really doesn't kind of work for me. Vampire the Masquerade has been always unapologetically edgy. This was just a really weird choice for like this particular mythological figure and like this particular path. I feel like the Lilith that they created in the game just kind of doesn't track with the Lilith that mythologically exists, and I kind of think that the Lilith that mythologically exists is kind of the better Lilith. But that's my opinion. What do you guys think? Do you guys ever read really old Vampire the Masquerade books? Would you like to start so that we can have a conversation? Because there you go. I'm gonna be playing a Sabbat game. I found a reason to read it, and I'm not worse for wear for having done that. But edge be edging you. So thank y'all for watching. If you want to subscribe to this channel, I tend to do videos about video games and the cult primarily. Sometimes they cross over, like inside this video. And if you want to support what I'm doing, I have a Patreon, and any subscriber that subscribes at the $3 tier kind of gets listed over here. So that's the bonus. The $1 subscribers just kind of get my eternal gratitude. So if you don't want to be mentioned, that's where you would go. And there's literally no other privileges whatsoever because I don't really want to divide my audience. I enjoy giving videos for everybody that wants to listen to me yammer on for some bizarre reason. So thank you for watching this video. I hope I'm gonna see you in my other ones, and toodaloo for now.